The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea. For thus it has been written through the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people, Israel.'" Then Herod called the Magi aside and ascertained from them the exact time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word, so that I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out, and the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their coffers and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. After having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
We are taught, trained, and more often than not, we think of our response to God as auditory. We listen to the word proclaimed, and we listen to what God is saying to us in our hearts and in our conscience. Even in the signing of the senses in the rite of baptism that we just did, the signing of the ears comes before the signing of the eyes or the hands or any other of our senses. And yet today I suggest that we turn especially to the visual. As we heard in our first reading, raise your eyes and look about you. One of the central images in the scriptures for God's self-communication is that of the shining face. In the 6th chapter of the book of Numbers, we have the blessing of Aaron. May God let his face shine upon you. And that reference continues in many of the Psalms. It is expected that worshipers will see the radiance of God, and in that light, we too will shine. The Greek word for this radiance, for this shining, is epiphania, epiphany. Visual imagery is at the heart of today's solemnity, this feast of shining. For today is about looking. Who looks at whom? Matthew with his usual picturesque details, trains our gaze on the Magi. And in our eyes, the Magi have become as central to any Christian pageant as almost Jesus, Mary, and Joseph are. They enter wearing their crowns, their flowing robes, with diverse ethnicities, none of which comes from the gospel, but from our own human imagination. And adding to that visual stimulation is, of course, the radiance of the star that is guiding them. The Magi teach us to look and see the newborn King of the Jews. He acquires worth and splendor through their eyes. And yet the eyes of the Magi are not the only eyes at this scene. There are other eyes. For the Magi have come into the presence of the one whose very face is the radiance of God. Our paintings will capture the scene with the halo. But will the Magi have seen a halo? Will anyone have noticed anything shining about their face or their countenance? Probably not. I imagine all of that radiance, those halos, come from later reflection on what happened. As the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh signify, the one who has come will look upon us with the eyes of a king who will challenge the power structures to which we belong and upon which we depend. And he will look at us with the eyes of a priest who will tell us that it is mercy God desires, not sacrifice. And he will look at us with the eyes of a prophet who has been killed and yet has conquered death. Those eyes relativize our world, and we who dwell in his presence become radiant as he guides us into the way of peace.